How's it going, everybody? It's Sam here, with another look at another toy. I've seen a lot of discussion online lately about non-transforming Transformers figures, and so I figured I would take a look at one of those and, I don't know, maybe turn this into a series. So please join me as I take a look at the 2007 Revoltech Yamaguchi line's Convoy. Or, Optimus Prime. Let's go! Revoltech Convoy is a non-transforming action figure of Optimus Prime, using Revoltech's revolver joint system as the basis for its posability. The sculpt and paintwork are based on the Dreamwave Comics version of the character as drawn by Pat Lee or by one of his unpaid, uncredited collaborators, featuring ridiculously exaggerated proportions, chest windows that protrude way too far to be part of a real-life truck cab, a far too busy head design, and extra panel line details throughout. A major sticking point about this figure is the black revolver joints, looking very out of place against some of the other painted pieces. Something that was addressed in later releases in this line, but overall breaks up the flow of this piece in my opinion. That said, he doesn't look too bad, but how about these revolver joints? How does the main gimmick of the entire Revoltech series stack up? Being the first Transformers figure in the line, he is, of course, the testbed for their joint system on a blocky robot body. The head and neck are connected on a double joint system that allows for two separate up and down movements, and due to the pegged-in nature of these joints, there is a swivel at both connection points, though it does move a little more freely at the head. The shoulders are a basic swivel joint that go a full 360. These are carried over from the prototype version of this figure, prior to the implementation of the Revoltech joints, where every point of articulation on the figure was an angled swivel joint. You can also see that on the outward swivel of the shoulder, here. The elbows feature a nice detail in that the revolver joint sits inside a separate panel that compresses when bent and fills in the arm when extended. However, this does also leave us with a black peg sticking out of the back of the forearms due to the joint's placement. The hands are on a mushroom peg that allows a pretty easy swivel, but I'll go into the problems with that in more detail in a minute. A mid-torso revolver joint allows us to swivel at this point, and a decent amount of arch and crunch, but if you pull back too far, the joint does become visible inside. However, there is nothing at the waist, which I feel wouldn't have been too hard to implement. The legs move out pretty far, but the backward movement is blocked a bit by the sculpt. And as with any revolver joint, they can swivel at the connection as well, though due to the angle some of the joints are inset at, this doesn't always seem good. You can see that the peg going into the torso here is actually pretty straight up and down. However, the one on the inside of the thigh is angled backwards, so it affects how much swivel you can get out of this connection. This could have been done for stability or weight distribution, but I don't know for sure. The knee bends a little more than 90 degrees and features a sculpted kneecap to better hide the obvious black joint underneath. It's a good attempt, but ultimately serves mostly to limit the potential swivel at either end of the joint. And finally, a revolver joint at the feet allows them to point up and down, get a decent tilt at the ankle, and it also allows for a little bit of swivel to help stabilize poses. And damn, son, he can almost do poses. It's a little tricky to get him balanced on one leg, but, he can almost nail a superhero landing. But where this figure truly shines is squatting poses, or as they were called in the Dreamwave days, dynamic action poses. Of course, any high-end collectible figure wouldn't stop at just poses, so let's talk about options. Option hands, that is. Convoy has 3 of them. Unfortunately, this is where my first major mark against the figure comes in, swapping the hands, specifically getting the fists out. Remember the mushroom peg problems I mentioned earlier? They are in there solidly, and it is nigh impossible to get a good enough grip to pull them free. I attempted to use my thumbnail for grip and actually tore my thumbnail. I had to resort to making a tool to provide the leverage needed to start forcing this peg out. Now, once you get it past a certain point, it becomes much easier to grip and force out, but it is definitely a process. Putting a new hand in is simple, though, and fortunately the other hands provide enough grippable surface to remove them with relative ease. First up, we have the weapon-holding hand. This hand is perfect for holding the iconic Ion Blaster, which is suitably overblown and exaggerated to match its wielder. Now, over on the other side, we get a sort of half-splayed open hand that we can use to hold the included matrix of leadership, and you can combine that with the gripping hand to make it look a bit like he's trying to open the matrix, or you can, just use it to stabilize that bloated rifle of his. Convoy's final hand is a pointing hand, perfect for the Autobot leader who walks the path of heaven, though it's more likely to be used for giving orders or, pointing exaggeratedly at things. Revoltech Convoy is not a perfect figure by any means, rendered in the style of an artist who was controversial to say the least, with a design that was outdated long before the figure was ever released. This is at least in part due to the fact that the figure had been in development for so long that the first images we ever saw of it were 3 years earlier and based on an entirely different joint system. It also has some design issues that Kyoto would deal with eventually down the line. That said, I still enjoy this figure and recommend it to anybody who wants to add something different to their collection. And that's Revoltech Convoy. Not great, but not bad. Decent pickup if you can find him at a good price. Honestly, I got mine when he came out. I don't even remember what I spent on it. But he is pretty cool, provided you don't mind the liberties that Pat Lee took with the character design. I look at it as a slice of Transformers history, a defunct design from a defunct comic series, from a defunct comic publisher, from an artist who is probably never going to work in Transformers again as long as any of us live. It's a nice look at what was. However, the Transformers' influence in the Revoltech Yamaguchi line did not end there. In fact, only a few months later in the same year, there was another release. Maybe I might take a look at him? Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted anytime I post new stuff. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know if you do want me to review that Revoltech Megatron, or if you want me to do something else entirely. And we'll see everybody in the next video. Goodbye.